Sister, how the soup dey smell? Hey, sweet well well. Bring my own o. Pass the rice, Sister Carol.
A righteous deception. My mother is a single mother of 5, not by choice, but by the merciless hand of fate. Her husband had been her only partner in the struggle, a man of quiet strength who sold spare parts under the scorching sun. We were poor, but we had love, laughter, and faith until the cold hand of death snatched my father like a thief in the night in an undiagnosed illness. My mother held his hand as he breathed his last on a rusted hospital bed, his eyes full of apology for leaving her alone. I was the youngest child, I was barely 2 years. Our oldest, just 12. Life after my father became a battlefield. The rent piled up, the debts grew, and hunger became a daily companion. Yet, my mother refused to break. She rose every morning before the sun, carried her basket of vegetables to the market. We became her reason to live. She starved so we could eat. She walked miles so we could learn. The pain of the loss of her husband never truly left. It only learned to sit quietly beside her as she sold vegetables to keep her children's dreams alive. Her day begins in darkness, her world has long been dimmed by struggle. She wakes to the sound of mosquitoes and the labored breathing of her children huddled together on a torn mat. The air is heavy with hunger, that quiet, invisible ache that never truly goes away. She dresses in silence, her wrapper faded, her slippers worn thin. Outside, the streets are still asleep, but she walks on, her basket of vegetables balanced on her head, her heart heavier than the load she carries. Each step is a prayer for survival. By the time the market comes alive, she's already drenched in sweat. Her stall is nothing more than a rusted table, shaded by a torn and worn-out shed. Flies hover around the tomatoes, the sun beats down like punishment. Still, she smiles, the kind of smile that hides despair. Customers haggle over a few coins, some insult her prices. She swallows her pride like medicine, bitter but necessary. Sometimes, when the day drags too long and her stomach twists with emptiness, she steals a bite of a spoiled tomato, not for taste, but to silence the hunger. Evening comes slowly, painfully. Her legs tremble, her eyes sting with sweat and fatigue. She counts her earnings, barely enough for rice, definitely not enough for rent. But at home, we run to her, our voices break her heart open and mend it at once. She serves us food and watches as we eat, pretending her stomach isn't growling. When the world grows quiet and we sleep, she sits alone, her back against the wall, her soul heavy with exhaustion. Tears trace the map of her suffering, falling onto her calloused hands. She whispers a prayer. Not for herself, but for her children, that we might never know this kind of pain. Our hunger for education was not the kind that could be fed with food. It was a burning, desperate, aching hunger for a life that didn't look like our mother's. Every morning, we watched her leave before dawn. Her silhouette fading into the mist. We knew what that meant, another day of toil, pain, just so we could hold a pen. We studied because our emancipation depended on it. We read by the flicker of a dying candle. The smoke stung our eyes, but we refused to blink. Each word we learned was a small escape from the life that tried to trap us. When hunger gnawed at our stomachs, we drank water and kept reading, protecting dreams too fragile to lose. Our uniforms were faded, our shoes torn. Every time we saw other children dropped off at school in cars, we make a quiet vow, one day, we will get there. We never forgot the nights our mother went to bed hungry so we could eat. The sound of her weary sighs became our anthem. We whispered to one another, we must make it. For my mother. Every exam we passed felt like a miracle wrestled from the jaws of despair. We desperately dreamed of a day our mother could rest her tired body and smile without having to toil. My older siblings eventually gained admission into federal universities to study STEM courses. They pay fees my mother can barely afford. The university is no paradise, it's another battlefield. University is hope wrapped in torment. The hostel smells of sweat and decay. Lectures are overcrowded. The lecturers, gods in their small empires, decide your fate with a stroke of a pen. When strikes hit, time stops. Our youth wastes away while the government debates. You just endure, trapped between hope and despair. Hunger is a daily ritual. They graduated like soldiers, scarred by a system that almost killed their dreams. Their employment was not swift, but like a sunrise after years of darkness, blinding, beautiful, and almost unreal. The first in an international oil service company, the second in a leading bank, the third in an oil company, and the fourth a medical doctor, studying towards his residency. As the last born, I recently gained admission to study chemical engineering in a federal university. I was pampered by all, and my mother began to eat the fruits of her labor. That was short-lived. It started the day our second son met a prophet. A smooth-talking man with a velvet voice and a Bible that dripped with deceit. He told my brother that our mother was a witch and had vowed to donate her children in the coven. My brother, filled with venom, whispered into our ears, night after night, twisting our memories. He called her wicked, manipulative. And we, foolish, naive, began to listen. The prophet kept demanding more prayers, more sacrifices, more money. Slowly, my older siblings turned from her. Her children were killing her slowly with neglect, cold words, ignored calls, one betrayal at a time. My mother stopped smiling. She stopped going to church. She sat by the window every evening, staring down the dusty road as if waiting for her children to remember her. I had tried reasoning with my brother, but his heart had become stone, sealed by the words of the false prophet. Every time I mentioned my mother, his face would twist in disgust. "She wants to kill us," he would say. The prophet revealed it. Those words tore me apart. One night, in my dimly lit university room, I sat with my classmate, Mark, a brilliant yet mischievous theater arts student whose flair for drama could move mountains. Together, we conceived a plan that danced on the edge of madness and miracle. Mark would disguise himself as a white garment prophet, a righteous deception. I told him everything, our family story, my brother, the poison the false prophecy had sown. He listened intently, nodding, his eyes glinting with resolve. The next morning, Mark went to my brother's house. Dressed in flowing white, he looked every bit the part. When he spoke, his voice was deep, commanding. "My son," he began, he made some bold statements about our family to him. "There is a shadow over your household, a warning from God. The one who gave you life, your mother, is your bridge to long life. Neglect her, and the river of your days will dry up." My brother froze. The words hung heavy in the air. Mark took a slow step closer, his gaze piercing. "Restore your mother's joy, otherwise sorrow will sit at your table." A chilling silence followed, the kind that feels alive. My brother's eyes darted nervously, his composure cracking. "Who sent you?" he whispered. Mark lowered his head and said quietly, "The one who sits in the heavens." My brother scoffed, half in fear, half in denial. But before he could speak again, Mark raised a trembling finger and declared, "Your days are numbered if you keep the company of that false prophet. That prophet is your ruin." The words struck him like thunder. He staggered back, his face pale. When Mark turned to leave, my brother offered him money. Mark looked at him coldly and said, "Your money perish with you." Then he walked away, leaving behind a silence that roared louder than words. By a divine miracle, my brother broke free from the chains of deception. It was as though a veil had been torn from his eyes. One morning, he went to see my mother and he fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face, his voice breaking as he said, "Mother, forgive me." She didn't speak. She simply placed her trembling hands on his head and wept long, hard, cleansing tears that washed away years of pain. From that day, everything changed. My brother made it his life's mission to restore what he had destroyed. He disabused my other siblings from the lies that had taken root. Slowly, the walls of bitterness crumbled, replaced by remorse, forgiveness, and love. Together, they began to care for my mother as they should. They bought her a modern bungalow, a place filled with light, peace, and comfort. They hired a chef to prepare her daily meals, the aroma of good food now filling the air that once smelled of struggle. When her health began to fail, they flew her abroad for medical care. She now rests in the soft embrace of healing and dignity. My brother also found his way back to faith and started attending a Bible-believing church. He became a man transformed, humble and at peace. As for Mark and I, after graduation, our friendship only deepened. We often laughed about that daring plan that changed everything. It was a divine orchestration, a moment where heaven used our foolishness to heal a family broken by lies. And every time I visit my mother now, sitting in her veranda, her laughter echoing like music, I'm reminded that grace can grow from pain, and redemption can rise from the ashes of betrayal. If you like my video, please like, share, comment and subscribe. Thank you.
He has done it again. Lift your voices, everybody. Shout unto the Lord.